Today we will talk about XRP, the resurgence of collapses in b- b- banks, and what actually ties these two things together and what can actually solve this. Well, I don't think anyone would be surprised. I think that XRP is one of the things that could actually solve this, as it could unlock a lot of tied up cash and liquidity for financial institutions that really need it right now. But let's just kind of touch on a couple of the essentials first. We have a very significant increase in price from about 50 cents all the way up to it topped off at like 74 cents almost earlier on the 1 day chart. We have topped out RSI, which is a uh, it's almost a bad thing that it is so high right now. We are performing very well on the MACD as well. And even on the 1 week, we have, in my opinion, what is a much more positive sign. We have crossed over into a bullish MACD trend that is on its way up still. And we have an RSI that is at about 70. And once it gets above about 80, then that is a very, very powerful indicator that we are in a good position for the price to continue to go higher. Our big issues right now in terms of XRP price are this about 71 cent zone is a historical support and resistance line. We have chopped around it a little bit on the 1 day now. So that is probably an area that we will hang out in for a bit until we likely exceed that. But on the 1 week chart, I think it's probably the more important one. We are in a position to continue to increase. And then even on the 1 month, we are working our way out of a fluctuation in the MACD, and that is beginning to increase again. And we still have a very high RSI as well. So I think in the coming weeks, into about a month or so, I think we will continue to see the price of XRP increase. On the 1 week, we have some more clarity as to where our supports and resistances will be. So probably this like 71 cent zone, up towards about 85, 86 again. And if we continue, then up into like the exactly $1 mark, which is also a very significant psychological point as well. And it also has some for the last year and a half or so at about the 91 cent mark. So I think that we can retest each of those in all honesty. But the main point here that I'm attempting to make is that the connections in between the financial institutions having a hard time right now and the collapse of Citizens Bank in Iowa, it's all happening at a really interesting time as this ISO 222 changeover begins to be actually turned on November the 19th for a lot of very large financial institutions. There have been some changes in this. I think SEPA has been pushed back. I think Swift might have even extended it a bit. But this is a really interesting indicator. Or no, I think it was Fed now. But the main point is that November 19th, 2023 is a very interesting date for all ISO 222 compliant protocols. In fact, JPM is calling the November 19th event the ISO 222 Go Live event. So we all know that JP Morgan is not a public proponent of XRP, but I have shown some really interesting connections in between XRP and XLM and JPM that continue to make me think that they are involved. So here's a really good example of why XRP can and should be the solution for these financial institutions that are actually having a hard time right now.
Well, we live in a days of instant gratification. You won't wait 5 seconds for a web page to load. Why would you wait 3 days for a payment to settle? So let's go real time. The world is moving real time, so should payments and other forms of settlements. Well, we have had two use cases with Ripple. The first one was on trade finance, where we tried to solve the problem of duplicate invoice financing under the codename TradeSafe, in which we collaborated with DBS and IDA, the Singapore sovereign. The second use case is on cross-border payments. So we want to make cross-border payments real-time, instantaneous, with full transparency. So these are the two use cases we are working on.
Which is also interesting that he called out trade finance, because that goes back to the ties with XRP and XDC that I have made that relate to R3 Corda and the heavy connections with XDC to the trade finance industry, which is worth tens of trillions on the low end. So here is an interesting thing I found. I'm not sure how official it is, but I did find where it actually came from. The Swift 2023 functionality can be activated via a central switch on off, and it will be tested before the activation date in November of 2023. This rejigging made me think that it wasn't really an official document, but it does talk about a switch with ISO 222 again. The only direct article that I could find on this was from this site. I don't know if it's pulling information from another source. It seems as if it is, but it does directly to talk about that right here as well. So that's talking about Swift itself, SR 2023, which I've seen that before, and it's a lot of other extremely technical information here that I don't know enough about to interpret a whole lot. But yeah, it does appear as if it comes from some kind of a official source, but this site just looks odd. So now, as far as the problems that the financial industry is having right now, or the financial institutions and banks are having right now, there have been a number of high-profile banks that have been having issues over the last 48 hours or so. And we saw, this is from October 24th, but this trend is generally continued as well. So you have Citigroup, Morgan, can't say that word, Goldman Sachs, and Bank of America, which is interesting because they are a very large proponent of Ripple and XRP. But I talk about this because if banks are having a liquidity issue, or if we call it a liquidity crisis, then XRP can unlock a lot of the cash that they have to keep in order to make all of the conversions with their transactions. And let's just recall from Alex Cobb a list of who Ripple is actually working with. There are a number of very large financial institutions in here, and it's not in alphabetical order, which is unfortunate, but Bank of America is certainly one, and I found it really interesting that that was one of the four that have been, yeah, it's actually here, that have been having issues. So let's go to, yeah, so on November 3rd, Bank of America, Chase, and U.S. bank systems were down as direct deposit systems crash, and that included Wells Fargo as well, which is interesting because it's happening at the same time that 40 billion in unrealized losses hit J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Citigroup as well, which are three out of these four here. Well, it's two out of these here at least. So it's really interesting that these connections are kind of becoming more prominent at the same time. Now, even more interestingly is that we have a U.S. banking crisis again. About 190 banks could collapse, according to this. Now, this is more about regional banks, which were most of what the insolvencies were earlier this year, I believe in March. But regional banks hold a large majority of the capital and assets in our country. A lot of regular people like you and me use these kinds of banks, and it's very it makes me very uneasy that we are now talking about 190 banks possibly collapsing. I think that's a really big deal. And this comes after the bank in Iowa got shut down. It sounded like it was kind of a surprise because the Fed didn't come and help them like they would or have helped other larger ones in the past. But that shouldn't be a huge surprise either, because the Fed is much more favorable towards the very large financial institutions out there. Here's an interesting interview that explains what Uphold is actually working with Ripple on for expanding their XRP liquidity for ODL. Now, I won't play all of this, but I do think it has some very relevant points for this tie-in between financial institutions having a hard time and the interesting accumulation in price of XRP.
So, I mean, for people who aren't familiar with Uphold, what we do is allow people, companies, and institutional investors to move value from fiat currencies into cryptocurrencies and then across different blockchain networks. And the Ripple partnership is very important to us. So we're going to become a node in Ripple's On-Demand Liquidity service. And their service basically streamlines international payments for big companies. Uphold's role in that will be to convert XRP into fiat currency, USD, pound sterling, and euros, and to handle bank payouts in Europe, UK, and the US. It's a really important deal for us, not just because of the direct benefit, but because it signals the strategic direction we want to take the company.
And I think that's really critical because it also ties in with the ISO 20022 information as well. It's a very interesting timing for this partnership to expand even more, even though it has appeared like it has been in the works for quite a long time, because a lot of the same people involved in Uphold are involved in Ripple as well. In fact, my last video on XRP was on that exact topic. And with these institutions having a hard time with liquidity, and with the legal clarity that XRP as an asset has now, even though there's still some up in the air until there's some kind of a trial or a settlement in between Ripple and the SEC. The institutional sales end of things is a little bit unsure at this point in time. So if these financial institutions have to buy XRP at market price from people like Uphold, then they could use that to unlock more of their capital to help themselves out while they are actually having a hard time right now. And just to remind everyone, it's not like Ripple and XRP are unknown in the financial institution space. They have 6 live CBDC, I think that says partnerships right now, and 20 more in discussion, regardless of the SEC case. Here's an interesting call out for some cross-border payment applications, which look very much like the cross-border payments that financial institutions would actually use XRP for. But this actually directly calls out Ripple by name. So with all of this, it's even more interesting that XRP has had some more price anomalies. We have had multiple reports of $250 XRP on multiple exchanges. I believe this is from crypto.com. There's more here. I don't know where this came from, but it's actually XRP at $12, $1.11 there, and then we have a couple of more. This is 1264 there too. I think that's just out of a alert or out of a wallet, and yeah, that was on crypto.com. It's 247 there. Now I couldn't not include a little bit of conjecture and conspiracy in here, but this whole 589 XRP price thing that has been kind of a running joke at this point in the XRP community. It was first put out by Mr. Poole, who has made some allusions to Ripple and XRP. So if you look at the prime numbers, 11 is your 5th, 19 is your 8th, and 23 is your 9th. 589, 11, 19, 20, 23, which of course takes us back to the ISO 222 official beginning of the transition. Now, I don't know how far back this was actually announced, but it's really interesting that a specific date was indirectly called out here. And I just wanted to tie in, I did a video on Ripple's very likely connections to the CBDC project Mbridge, and I couldn't find anything on the UAE. Well, the UAE's Al Maria Banks selects Ripple ODL partner for cross-border transfers, and that would fill in the UAE part that I didn't have a direct example for in front of me at that time. So I just wanted to come back and say this is again a thing that we can directly trace these countries and their financial institutions back to Ripple and XRP. So I think we have very positive expectations about what's to come in the days, weeks, and months for XRP.